thrust of potential changes in the conversation, which direction you're going?
Well, continue. We want to continue the crackdown on headshots. There's a process that has to go through, but I think a general agreement with the general managers to move it forward to the competition committee and then to the board of governors.
In what way, Brian? What would change?
Maybe expand it a little bit so it's not just blindside hits, but maybe players who are vulnerable, maybe in different areas of the ice.
Mike Murphy said that it was an interference play with Rome the other night, but if the hit had been delivered without the long span of the puck, it would have been a legal hit.
Correct.
Will that change if this new tweak happens?
No.
So that will always remain.
We want the tightrope we walk. I think people watch these interviews and they say these guys don't care about headshots. The tightrope we walk this is a full contact sport. It always has been. It's been a full contact sport since we opened our doors for business. It's one of the distinctive features of what we do. We don't want to change that. We want to eliminate the really dangerous parts of the play, but this is a game where you're going to get hit and there's going to be injuries. And we got to start with that basic understanding that it's a full contact sport. And we cannot lose that part of the fabric of our game. And what we got to do is take the most dangerous parts of it and eliminate those. You got the media's going to turn on him just like they turned on me and just like they turned on Cole. If you don't like a decision, you're going to write that, and they're going to be calling for a panel, and then you'll turn on the panel. So it's the media here think they know more about this stuff than the guy that does the job, and it's not going to change. So my advice to Brendan Shanahan is to have real thick skin and real small ears.
Brian, what about the way he conveys the message to players? If you think about players being empowered, understanding it, and also being able to make a decision, do you think he strikes a chord there?
Well, I think the NHL Players Association was part of the process drafting the procedures when I took over. And so the players were involved in how it was set up, what the penalties were. They were involved in every hearing. The notion that the players are somehow dictated to by the supplementary discipline system, that's crazy. Do I think Shanny has an ability to communicate with a player because he played the game? I think that'll help.
Your name came up yesterday from Mike Murphy as someone who's consulted with the Rome suspension. How was the reaction, and how do you feel about having your name come up in that fashion?
Well, I was asked about the weighting of games in the finals and the procedures we followed. There have only been a handful of suspensions in the finals. I think when I suspended Claude Lemieux, I believe it was the first suspension in the finals since Rocket Richard. So he asked me about the weighting of games, the procedures. That's it. He didn't ask me about the hit. And if there's a hit in the game tonight that he wants to call me on, he can call me on.
There's zero appetite for a total ban on contact to the head.
No. Well, no. What's that?
Why?
Why should we? If you have an otherwise legal hit that results in contact to the head, that's part of the game and always has been. If you go to that rule, you're going to take hitting right out of the game. I mean, the best example I can give you is Phil Kessel's first game as the Toronto Maple Leaf. Mattias Ohlund stepped up and drilled him. Perfectly clean hit, north-south, but the principal contact ended up being his head because of the size differential. He was bent over. We want that hit in our game.
Have you studied the OHL? Proposed that.
Yes, I have, and I'm not satisfied that it hasn't reduced hitting significantly.
When we talk about different areas of the ice, can you explain that?
Well, right now, the notion that a player in one part of the ice would be treated differently than a player somewhere else on the ice with a similar hit, I think that's the sense is, let's take that hit. If it's a blindside hit or a hit where the player is vulnerable, let's take that hit out, regardless of where it occurs.
That's the Seabrook hit behind the net?
Well, no, that was a north-south hit, but other hits, like, I guess, expanded to wherever a player is vulnerable. That was Torres hit on Seabrook was a north-south hit for me. Yeah, we're talking about tightening that up as well. Both. Yeah. Well, the notion that right now, when we sped up the game, we put this rule package in, the game became faster, it created more opportunities for hitting at greater speed. We've got to look at maybe there's too much. Maybe the forwards coming out of the D have too much speed. Maybe they've got a breaker. Maybe we've got to put some onus on the hitter. So we'll look at all of those things.
Would you characterize?
Well, they've got a rule change recommendation, but like I said, there's a process to go through.
Obviously, you've looked at Rule 48, its implementation, the way it was used, its effect. What would you say the general feeling was on its effectiveness this year and how drastic the change could be to the way it's implemented?
I don't think it's been a drastic change because these were only a tiny percentage of hits anyway. But I think the rule is working, and I think we have to look at it, and like I say, take it to the next level and maybe put it on all parts of the ice. Yeah, I think players, no, I don't think there's much confusion in the process. I think if you get called on the carpet, you're probably there for a good reason. I think when the league suspends a player, there's usually a good basis for it.
Do you think Nathan Burke was in a vulnerable position down there?
In a vulnerable position, how?
Well, because his head was turned.
Because he
And they had
watched
released the pass.
Yeah, he watched his pass. You could argue that, yes. But that north-south hit, a player's carrying the puck and has just released it, that hit was late. It was a suspendable hit. But if he does it simultaneous with his release of the puck, is that a clean hit? Yes.
Any other topics, Brian, that you can share today? Something.
Long day.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. Sorry for asking,
No,
but
I don't, nothing in particular.
nothing that came out that was.
I'm sure one of the other gyms will give you a better answer. I can't think of anything else.
But Rule 48 was the biggest part.
I think, yeah, Rule 48 and the expanding the charging and boarding and enforcing those rules.
Brian, are you upset about the way things seem to have been interpreted yesterday with respect to your involvement in the suspension?
No,
because it seemed to be pretty unfair. That
How
your name
so?
kind of got dragged in. Well,
You guys are giving yourselves a lot more credit, I guess. I didn't read any of it. People are telling me that people are questioning it, but if the league calls me tomorrow
yeah.
and asks me about the mechanics of the system and how the system works in the process, I'll happily weigh in again. And if you guys don't like it, that's too goddamn bad.
Yeah. It just seems to be that people
Well,
are.
you ask the question, I answer.
Yeah, no. That's
I
fine,
could
that's
care
fine.
less.
Yeah.
Not running for office here, so. Good.